Okay. Well, thank you. We know there were so many choices of places to be today. So we really thank you for coming and joining us. And we have to start by celebrating our extraordinary designer at this garden, who's here, Abby Lawless, who created the design for this garden, and Edwina von Gaal, who was the inspiration from the beginning for all the work she's done with Perfect Earth and 2/3 for the Birds, a real inspiration, and she led us to Abby. So there is this wonderful connection for this garden. It's really hard to look at all this beauty. It's really difficult then to remember that the seriousness of climate change and global warming. The gorgeousness out here makes it really hard to remember that we're in the midst of the 6th extinction. Since Earth Day 1970, we've lost 3 billion birds and 2/3 of our wildlife. We humans are the most destructive species on the planet. Wars, overdevelopment, reliance on fossil fuels, poisonous chemicals, and plastics. We've unleashed a train wreck, and our planet is fighting for its life. It's way too late to talk only about conservation. We need to restore natural biodiverse habitats. 1/3 of the carbon in the atmosphere is caused by the removal of trees and plants. Most of you know this story. But we cannot wait for policy change at the federal level or at the state level. We need to find ways to act in our own communities and on our own properties now. And that's what Change Hampton is focused on, the restorative potential of reducing lawns, planting natives, stop using biocides, and inviting pollinators. You'll see our yard signs that are old here. That's why we, together with the help of local East Hampton school students, helped us prepare the beds, plant local businesses. Whitmore's donated the trees to our garden. There were no trees here. It's all turf lawn. And community volunteers, and a lot of them are here, grants and donations, and with the town of East Hampton, we created this community pollinator garden as an ecological model. And stay tuned because we have another model we are proposed to the board coming along. Paul McIsaac is here today doing filming interviews with folks about for a video we want to do that he's in charge of doing and creating about transforming lawns. What we have discovered in our organizing is that few, even highly educated people in our community, our friends, our family, our neighbors, know how our ecological system works. So we're trying to educate ourselves and others about the significance of restoring native trees and plants. And to begin that, we need to know the language of nature. We need to learn the names and what those names signify. All of us in this gathering can probably name dozens of brands of products, but maybe only a handful of trees and plants and butterflies and birds. But it's not just our ignorance. The folks publishing our dictionaries are leaving out the words, the vocabulary for our natural world. Abby turned us on to a book by Robert Macfarlane, who commented that in 2007, the Oxford Junior Dictionary dropped the words acorn, buttercup, fern, heather, nectar, willow, but added blog, bullet point, chat room, voicemail. The outdoor and the natural replaced by the indoor and the virtual. The loss of knowledge and enchantment. If we cannot name it, we cannot love it, we cannot nurture it, protect it, or save it. So we are beginning a process here today by exploring some of the ways native plants in our community garden have been named. It's not just an academic exercise. As Scott Chasky has commented to me, what poetry is all about naming, and the names can be poetry. The first person we went to start the ball rolling here was Aubrey Peterson. Where is he? Aubrey. From the East Hampton High School, and the students in the Environmental Club, including Lola Garneau, this year's president, and Karen DeFranzo, who works with students in their own pollinator garden. We wanted to encourage students to write poems and make art inspired by the native plants in the garden. So you can see the art over here. We've had difficulties with the wind blowing it around, but these are pieces by the students at the school. And you'll see that each one is inspired by one of the plants in this garden. A very big thank you to those artists: Griffin Beckman, Akasha Gant, Salome Galindo, Adrian Parchment, Maya Taveras, and Joel Vigil. And later we'll hear from one of the poets. We also asked Eric Hamer's Latin class at East Hampton High to record the Latin botanical names of some of the native plants in our garden. We were listening earlier to that tape loop, and we'll play it again a little later. And we wanted to thank those students. We're going to be putting it up on our website. Cole Dunchik, Joseph Martinez Garces, Shirley Jiang, Kiefer Mitchell, and Sarah Stuttgart. Is Kiefer here? He said he might be able to come. Most of the students are either working today, they're all at a student leadership camp, or studying for their exams, so they've got heavy schedules. So what we're going to do here is we're going to hear about the Latin botanical naming system, as well as some stories that come with common English names in the garden. And Sunshine Gums, it will talk to us about the Shinnecock Nation project, a report on their efforts to restore and resurrect and revitalize the names, Algonquin Shinnecock names for native plants, local native plants. And we're also going to hear from two local poets, Scott and Megan Chasky. We have a special treat in the end. And then we're going to put the new native ID signs in the garden with all of your help, and with Abby and others leading us into putting the signs in the garden. But first, we begin with Rainbow Chavez of the Shinnecock Nation, who will lead us in a land acknowledgement, and Stefan's going to introduce.
Hi. Rainbow Chavez currently spearheads the cultural programming and helps to create diverse projects aimed at maintaining and preserving cultural practices, fostering land-based healing with plant medicine. She's also assisting in the development of the Shinnecock language curriculum that will be introduced into Southampton public schools. Her vision is to provide resources that will equip young adults with lifetime careers, aiming to increase the number of highly trained professionals from the Shinnecock community. Thank you, Rainbow.
Akwe. Unkana Butskwan Nadasuis, Parakohan, Lidodem, a synagogue. My name is Rainbow Woman. I am Thunderbird Clan from Shinnecock. A land acknowledgement is a way for people to remember or to remind people what lands you're standing on and what indigenous peoples live there or still remain there. We're standing on the ancestral territory of the Shinnecock and the Montaukett people. Today, we want to remind people how important it is to remember your Native neighbors and remember that we still exist. We are there. Our reservation, our territory that we have now is closer to Southampton Village. A lot of people don't even realize that we're there, but we are. Doing projects like this, restoring native plants, is a way of, I think, restoring a way of life amongst one another, where we are learning about how important it is to restore our native plants, as well as it's important to restore those connections with the native people and everyone here on the East End. We have a big, we have a way of life for the Shinnecock people is to live with Earth, is to honor Earth, is to honor our Mother Earth in every single thing that we do. And when our waters are being threatened by pollution and our lands are being threatened by overdevelopment, that affects our culture, it affects our way of life and our children's futures. So today we want to just bring you knowledge and ask that you remain grateful for what Mother Nature does provide for us. We need our water to live, and together we can make this community out here. We can be an example to others in the areas to say, this is what you need to do to make sure that you're cleaning up your waters and your lands and not making those same mistakes over and over again. We have to leave something for our children and our great-grandchildren and the next 7 generations, and we're all responsible to do that. So I hope everybody has a great time today. Wame Natampiag.
So, thank you, Renzo. And I didn't mention before that we also have a flute player here, the wonderful musician Julie Bluestone, who's been providing music in the garden. We reached out to Julie and said we want to serenade the plants, the insects, and us. So that's what she can do. Okay, well, the first thing we amateur gardeners and naturalists are confronted with as we dive deeper into this project is that we need to learn Latin names for the natural world. And that, as that sinks in, you can hear the big sighs and groans taking place. So we look to someone who actually studied Latin for 9 years, but who is going to talk to us a little bit about the Latin botanical naming system, and we'll also play the loop again later of the local students doing that. So Stefan's going to just talk a little bit about the Latin names.
Okay. Here we go. I'm going to keep this short, but the universal Latin naming system of plants we use today, and I want to extend a thank you to the master gardener and horticulturalist Alicia Whitaker, who helped and inspired in telling you about this incredible system. So how do we understand the who, what, where, and when, and how of the so-called binominal two-name system? Well, let's start with when it happened. For Europeans, the 16th and 17th century were the era of exploration and discovery. For native peoples, it meant conquest and conquest and colonization, all continue to have a profound impact on how we know and name the natural world to this day. European explorers brought back thousands of plants from the New World, Africa, and Asia, but there wasn't really a way to name and categorize all these new plants that they brought back with them. Common English names existed, but they were local and very often confusing. They changed from region to region and country to country. Here are two examples. A Melanchia canadensis is known as both Shatblow, Juneberry, and Serviceberry. Ironwood describes three very distinct plants. So there was a clear need for an easy way to categorize and to name that would be understandable to all, a lingua franca, if you will. So what made that happen? Well, there was Latin and Greek, the two foundational languages that created Europe and the idea of the West, both linguas francas, used by scholars and botanists for academic and global communication. From about 50 CE to the beginning of the 19th century, Latin was the principal language not just of scholars, but of administrators, academicians, philosophers, theologians. Latin was, for the Catholic Church, the only language until Vatican II in the early 1960s, and we continue to those Latin in areas including medicine, academia, and science to this day. Actually, we use Greek and Latin words on a daily basis without realizing where they came from. One idea is the whole concept of naming. Onomia in Greek is the name, which becomes nomen in Latin, and then it becomes noun and name in English. Idea comes from the Greek idein. So it's very much present to this day in our common language. So who is this guy called Carl? Who made it all happen? Carl Linné, or Carolus Linnaeus, as he called himself, was a 17th century physician, botanist, and scientist who invented this binomial two-name classification system. He's the father of modern taxonomy, which is the classification for all plants, animals, and minerals. He studied medicine at a time when there was no formal education in botany. Plants were the pharmacy of the day and were studied under the auspices of medicinal studies. He wrote several books, Systema Naturae, in 10 editions, a key one, but also other ones that are Fundamentalia Botanica and Philosophia Botanica, to create the rules for classifying and naming plants in botanical Latin. Systema Naturae was controversial as Linnaeus based his classifications on flowers, which he likened to marriage. Stamens as husbands and pistils as wives. So a flower with 6 husbands, stamens, and only 1 pistil wife was considered scandalous at the time and led to his books being banned in many parts of Europe. So what exactly is this binominal system Linnaeus invented? Plants are given 2 names. The genus, which is the first one, usually capitalized, and the second is the species. Together, they make up the scientific name for each plant. These are the building blocks of the scientific names, as we said before, of plants, animals, and minerals. Sometimes you'll see a third name following these two, capitalized in quotation marks, which is, here's an example, Echinacea purpurea magnus, magnus in the quotation mark. This tells us that this plant is cultivated by humans and is not native and does not reproduce to seed. So names make the difference here. So, and we have fun and learn to love botanical land. One way to do this is how to write our names as a plant. So if we took your name, your hometown, and your favorite color, John, who is from East Hampton that loves the color blue, would be Johannes Hamptonensis orientalis caruleus. Capitalize the genus, the J for John, lowercase for the species, Hamptonensis orientalis, italicize both or underline them, and the cultivar again in the quotation mark. So let's remember that the Greeks thought names were given to us by the gods. And many last names in English, like Smith and Taylor, are indicative of the professions of the bearers of these names. But how do we pronounce these Latin botanical names in a way that is fun and understandable? Latin is not a spoken language, but it's at the root of most European languages. So today's Italian and Spanish can give us some hinters on how we might rise to the occasion. The goal is to be comfortable and to be understood by other gardeners. And here's a little key of what might facilitate this. In English, we say A, E, I, O, and U. In Latin, we would say A, E, I, O, U. As a classical Latin speaker might finish with, nomen est omen. What's in a name? The name is the sign. Thank you.
But what we all start learning initially is the common names and some of the stories that come with them. The stories about the plants are always remarkable and fascinating. So two of our James Hampton folks here are going to tell a story about one of the plants in this garden. So, Len Green, where are you?
Oh, hi. Thanks for showing up today.
Great, like to your okay. And you need to get close, please.
Hey, thank you. Can everyone hear me now? All right. Thanks for showing up today. I was asked to pick a plant in the garden that I might want to tell a story about, and at first I was baffled. Well, what story could I possibly tell? But then going through the list of plants, I noticed snake fruit. And I said, I'll grab that. And I got a bunch of knowing emails saying, you're going to talk about Abraham Lincoln's mother dying from milk disease or milk sickness. Snake fruit, apparently, most people with the binomial system, or I guess it's Ageratina altissima. Snake fruit was known to be a poisonous plant, at least by the indigenous populations. And when cattle ate these plants, when they ran out of normal feed and water from the woods, they would consume the snake fruit plant, and their milk would become poisonous. And apparently, this killed thousands of settlers in the United States or America. And but that's not why I chose the name. I hadn't even thought of that. I thought of it because for years I've been fighting a war. It became a personal war against mustard garlic. Mustard garlic is an invasive plant that's running rampant throughout the region. Every time I walk down my street, I see it climbing more and more up the block towards my house. And I'm wondering, what about it? And eventually it indeed showed up in the woods behind my house and began to take over. And I fought it and fought it and fought it, but it was winning. One day on one of my walks, I noticed in this field of mustard garlic that there was another plant growing. I should say that mustard garlic, despite it's dirty because it gives off a chemical, apparently, that inhibits the growth of other plants, particularly native plants in the soil. And so what's this growing with the mustard garlic? And I saw that looked it up, I saw that it was snake root. And apparently snake root could go toe-to-toe with the mustard garlic. So I thought, well, I wish this would show up in my woods, the woods behind the house. And I got home that afternoon and realized, oh, I do have some volunteering in the woods. And sure enough, it began to grow and grow more. And it is going toe-to-toe with the mustard garlic, which I'm fighting. But I have an ally now, and that's thanks to the snake root, which, by the way, is a beautiful flower. Flowers late in the summer, but flowers right through autumn. So it has many benefits. But that's my story about snake root plant growing in its garden. It won't be flowering till the end of probably until August sometime. But there's a personal take on why I appreciate snake root and why we should be all aware of this mustard garlic best. If you see it, please rip it out of the ground and thank you. Well, it has, that's the thing about Latin names, this mitoleal system. It used to be Eupatorium rugosa, I believe. And now it is, it's, what did I say? Argentina, thank you. Argentina altissima. The name's called, yes.
We're going to be we have snake root in the garden, and we're going to be putting the signs in later to identify where it is. So, next storyteller is Paul Gartside, also on our steering committee at Change Hampton, and the craftsman who made our beautiful picnic table and bench.
Morning. So, I'm going to introduce you to what I think of as an old friend, a plant called Pearly Everlasting, although we've only known each other maybe 15, 16 years. Latin name is Anaphyllus margaritacea, which sounds a heck of a lot like a fancy cocktail to me. And I met this plant when I moved from the west coast to the east coast some years back. And when you do that, that's a 3,000-mile jump, and it's really interesting because you land in a completely foreign culture. I went from British Columbia to Nova Scotia, and I realized that lack of ability to play a fiddle was a huge gap in my education. But you also, when you do that, you land in a completely different ecological culture. The trees are different, the birds are different, the plants are different, and we spent a lot of time there around saying, what the heck is that? And Pearly Everlasting was one of the first native plants that I did that whole thing that Gary's just describing. I was just figuring out what it is and putting a name to it. Now, if we were on Highway 104 this morning, instead of sitting around here, driving from Halifax down the South Shore towards my old town of Shelburne, we would see that the whole of the roadside verges, almost all the way down, is a silvery green color. Almost continuous in the dusty, dry margins of the highway. This plant grows and thrives. It's a very hardy plant. Later in the year, it puts up blossoms of white flowers, but it sort of carpets the roadsides there. And so naturally, what the heck is that? And in looking up, I discovered it's Anopheles margariticea. It's pearly everlasting. And I was delighted to find, when this garden was put together by Abby, that here's my old friend Pearly Everlasting. Now, it's over there in the corner, beyond the tree there, and it is in a very sorry state. It is being devoured right now by little black caterpillars. Now, here's the whole story on this. All of our plants have this connection. Well, most of them have a connection with an insect host of some kind. Some very specifically, we know about monarch butterflies and milkweed, but it goes far beyond them. Some insects are specific to certain plants. Some have a group of plants. Pearly everlasting is host to the painted lady butterfly, which is our mid-size, very common mid-size orange, black, and white butterfly. I was hoping we'd see one here this morning, but what we've got are its caterpillars. And they are doing what they're supposed to do. They're eating the pearly everlasting, fattening up, and they will lay eggs or turn to chrysalises or whatever they do. And that's the cycle that we're seeing here. Pearly everlasting, painted lady butterflies. And if you need a memory tag for that, think cocktail, painted lady. You don't need any more than that. You got it. Okay? Thank you.
You're going to introduce Sunshine. You want to put off here and just step with it. I mean, please, so if it's there.
Welcome, Sunshine. Hi. It's Ham and Mistletoe. Wonderful. Thank you for joining us here. So, Sunshine Gums, before Europeans arrived on these shores, there was a thriving civilization of peoples, cultures, and practices that had stewarded the land for millennia. Part of the colonization process was the suppression of languages. Today, there is a project underway to revitalize the Algonquian and Shinnecock language. Sunshine Gums from the Shinnecock Nation is here to tell us a bit about that. Give it up for Sunshine Gums.
Thank you so much. Akwe Natesuis Napajabasum. Hello, my name is Sunshine Gums. I am the Ethnobotany Project Manager for my nation. I serve on the Southampton Town Conservation Board, as well as the New York State DEC Regional Advisory Committee for Long Island. Right now in Shinnecock, we are working on many different projects that have to do with our environment. I am working on the project right now labeled Shinnecock Indicators of Climate Change Impact, and we are in the current stage of plant knowledge right now. So I've been going around our territory. I'm born and raised on Shinnecock, so I'm very familiar with our homeland, and I know like the back of my hand. So for me, it's always been a hobby, second nature for me to be out in our woods, living in our woods, playing in our territory. And I just established an interest for what I'm looking at and what is in our territory. So for me coming up, that's always been my way. And then when I found out about this work that's happening in our community, I of course wanted to be a part of it. So, I was born and raised on Shinnecock, and going out and documenting all the different plant species that we have growing all throughout our territory, because we are going to be working on a handbook for the community and a website for the community. So documenting the species, where they're growing, how they can be used, but will all be used in the handbook and our website. I've also had the pleasure of interviewing our elders in the community and hearing their stories, their memories, their knowledge, growing up on Shinnecock, and how the environment and the landscape has changed over time. And just hearing their stories and their memories of how they used the plants of our territory coming up. And that's very important to put into this work as well, so that our youth can learn and know how things were always used and how we can continue to use them and continue to grow as a community by using the plants of our territory, our medicines, and everything that's on our homelands. So we are working with many departments of the community as well. My sister is here. She's going to share a little bit about the work that she's doing because this is all connected and everything that we're doing as a community. And among that, we are working on labeling the plants throughout our gardens in our community as well in our language. So we are working on projects that are bringing our language back. So we will be going throughout our trails and going throughout the gardens and people's yards and doing labeling as well. So that's going to be a great thing for the community and much needed. And I will let my sister speak a little bit on the project that she's doing for Blossom Development.
Hi, yes, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for all the work that you do, all our gardeners, because we need you. And I'm speaking from a position of a social work professional. My name is Risha Johnson. I am a citizen of the Shinnecock Nation. As my sister Sunshine has just articulated, we grew up in the woods. We grew up just learning about our environment, and it's just so important to us as a people, as a nation, and for our future generations. And one of the things that we do at Blossom Sustainable Development, we are a mental and behavioral health nonprofit organization, and we use what's called ecotherapy, and we incorporate that in our treatment model. And so when we have people that come to us with serious addiction problems, with things like depression and anxiety, we try to use Mother Earth's resources in our treatment model. And as you know, whenever we get grants, everything has to be evidence-based. The things that we do with ecotherapy are evidence-based, and there is lots of evidence out there that confirms the use of the natural environment is aiding in mental and behavioral health issues. So, for example, if we have somebody that's dealing with depression, we typically like to take them outside and do our sessions with them outside because there's a lot of peer-reviewed evidence out there that does confirm the positive impacts that's out there when we utilize Mother Earth's resources with these different things. I actually just was telling another participant today that I will be graduating on Wednesday from the Cornell Master Gardener course, and for my presentation, I talked about how we as the Shinnecock people, my presentation was on organic gardening. And so I verified and confirmed that we as the Shinnecock people, we were the first organic gardeners. We always relied on Mother Earth's resources. And the fact that we don't anymore, I firmly believe, is really aiding to a lot of these mental and behavioral health issues that we're seeing, like depression, like anxiety, like addiction. So when we choose and make a conscious decision to incorporate Mother Nature in our treatments, that is the path to success. And so I really want to encourage everyone to really get into horticulture therapy, get into gardening, because they have such a positive impact on your mental and behavioral health. We need to have these things in our school systems. We have so many kids that are attached to iPads and technology that if we choose to utilize and turn away from this stuff, I'm not saying indefinitely, but there has to be a balance. And so, again, I just want to thank everyone that's here today. Thank you for this opportunity just to share. And I look forward to more events like this. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. And then, whoops. Such an important reminder that so often when we talk about what we're doing at Change Hampton, we're talking about not only working for the health of our ecosystem, but for ourselves. It's all bound up in this work, so it's really good to hear that. Poets have been inspired by nature for a very long time. I grew up in Canada, so of course I have that English focus of poets, Wordsworth and Keats and Daffodil Romantic Bunch. And American students, of course, had it, others, and Chinese had Du Fu, and the world of poets in all languages derive much of their inspiration from nature. We asked the students at East Hampton High School if they would be inspired to write something by a particular plant. And one of the students submitted something, and she cannot be here. She's off at a youth leadership conference. And so I've asked Megan Chasky, who is Scott and Megan, local well-known poets, will be reading poetry at their poems as well. But I asked if them one of the student poets first. This is the work is by Maya Taveras. It's yeah, you think of it that yeah, yes, yeah, good. You need
My first pick, watered, never withered, glowing and gorgeous, blooming beautifully as the sun had intended, beaming with radiance. This one is different. Not a rose or a violet, not an iris or a daisy, more elegant than the lilies, but humble, a tulip, less fragrant than lavender, my favorite flower. Not the first pick, or the second on Valentine's Day, or the third in a mother's special bouquet, but my first and final at my wedding, recitals, and any special day, subtly stunning. They are humble and bright, rich with color, gaspingly gorgeous. My favorite flower, forever my first pick. That's Maya.
And you were into Scott thinks as well. Okay. Thank you, Megan, for that reading. So then
Okay, so when I was asked to introduce Scott, I have a biography I was going to read, but I hope you'll forgive me if I read this instead. I just finished this really wonderful book, At the Glacier's Edge. It's about Long Island natural history, and it's by Betsy McCulley. And as I was finishing it, I came across this. I thought it was such a coincidence that I should read it. A few years ago, organic farmer Scott Chasty, then director of the community farm of Quail Hill in Amagansett, turned over an entire field to milkweed. But defying the adage that if you build it, they will come, precious few monarchs came to lay their eggs. However, the story doesn't end there. What did come was the 9-spotted ladybug, a once common ladybug named for New York State, named the New York State insect in 1989 for its valued role in suppressing insect pests. It was thought to be locally extinct, but there they were on Scott's plantage. So here's the biography, a bit of it that I was supposed to read. So Scott, in addition to being a poet, farmer, and educator, in some way is an ecological hero for bringing the spotted ladybugs back. Right, Scott Chasky is poet, farmer, educator, and for 30 years he's cultivated the soil and community for the Botanic Land Trust at Quail Hill Farm in Amagansett. He's the past president of the Northeast Organic Farming Association of New York. He was honored as Farmer of the Year in 2013. He is the author of numerous books, including This Common Ground, seed time, on the history, husbandry, politics, and promise of seeds, stars and suns, soil and spirit. He lives in Sag Harbor with his wife, Megan Chasky, who is also a poet and musician. And we welcome him here today.
Good. Words begin as description. They are prismatic, vehicles of hidden, deeper shades of thought. You can hold them up at different angles until the light bursts through in an unexpected color. The word carries the living thing concealed across millennia. That's by Susan Bryn Morrow in a book called The Names of Things. And here's Robert McFarlane from the book that was mentioned, Landmarks. But we are and always have been name callers, christeners. Words are grained into our landscape, and landscapes grained into our words. Every language is an old growth forest of the mind. We see in words, in webs of words, in wefts of words. The roots of individual words reach out and intermesh. Their stems lean and crisscross, and their outgrowths branch and clasp. Those are my epigraphs. Thank you for reading from Zetzi's book, which is on my desk at the moment, as a matter of fact. And just to emphasize that nine-spotted ladybug thought to be extinct for 50 years has not been found anywhere else but on Quail Hill Atoll. And this takes place at Quail Hill Far, just over the tracks. Dusk, the swallow's hour, and a bright moon rises in the east over the North Atlantic. The ocean is near, I hear it, just there beyond the railroad tracks in Amagansett Village, a short glide for an osprey, though I cannot see it from my sheltered garden tucked into the back of the Long Island farm field. I am surrounded on every side by robust maples, white pines, an elegant larch, a thick tangle of bittersweet, honeysuckle, and the rapid porcelain berry as I kneel on the sweet-smelling earth, planting beans as the light fades. The varieties of Phaseolus vulgaris are rare, collected by seed travelers from distant places, and I am a willing and joyful conservator. New Mexico, Tuscarora bread, raffiofi, purple stardust, Shinnecock. As the first star appears below the moon, fireflies rise among the grasses, flickering like earthly stars on familiar terms with this soil. Swallows dip off toward night, and I press the last of the varietals one by one neatly into the row. This sylph loam remembers the moment, as I do, as the last of the seed, nightfall fills the furrow. Flash, a firefly, as the living seed, too, remembers the sylph. So there's the magic of language, the magic of words right there, as the light is dying and night is coming, and last variety I'm planting was indeed nightfall. One more poem. This one, again, started off inspired by the fields just over there. It's called Travelers. The heron rises from each plum and profuse hedge of summer. Shellfish nurse in tidal meadows, berries ripen on silt. Near glacial kettles, half-moons of roots heaved up by wind, shadow under beech and hickory. Milkweed coasts a butter of monarchs. Cretaceous clay, cool springs, latent ocean heat. Harbors, bays, ponds, slip wings, so many wings the flyways. We come as visitors to the fish-shaped island as we build, divide, cultivate, and limit the wild
sea and the heron's flight is commerce with wilderness. To conserve a harmony of air and water, rest and motions, observe the language of other travelers. Hurricane winds, terns and redwings, snappers, killies, blowfish, the currents of the resonant sea. Thank you for being.
Thank you, Scott. Megan Chasky is also a poet. She's a musician and educator. She does yoga therapies and holistic healing. She's a practitioner with 5 sacred music albums, author of Birdsong Under the Wisdom Tree collected poems. She's passionate about working with students, that she's been doing for 25 years, including as school garden educator and visiting artists teaching poetry workshops in local schools and organizations. And currently co-founder of the Leos Garden Education Consulting. And she's married to fellow poet Scott Chasky. So Megan's going to read a poem, and she's also going to lead us in something special. So,
I'm talking about names. Leos is Lios, and it's an Irish word that means fairy mound or garden.
And another philosophy, right?
It's okay. I can come closer.
Okay, I understand.
And so this poem is called Quail Hill Farmers, and it talks about naming the varieties. So it's all of a piece. Quail Hill Farmers. I read the warp, the threads through it, the pattern of the sewing, as though it could be glossed, the moons, the flower days, once and for all. I see you work loot, the texture of your farm, the cloth of soil, rich in these moist colors of turning. Our quixotic, natural great sky rains down, yields its boundless form to the furrows in the leaf of your time. The thick pattern of tractor heaves precise as shears along the edges of the harlequin's 100 hues of green. And you name the darling mischief and the hope of each variety as it holds you where it germinates to the floodplain of your own kernel spirit. So will braids of garlic white, from house seedlings, the flowers ring, calendula is we. Till summer turns us in the shuttle, we dance the yellow thread for what you do bring, Jen.
It's just for it.
Yes, so what I'd love to do is have us all join in a song, and it's very easy, has 2 words, ama, which means water, and wado, which means thank you in Cherokee. And I just want to also acknowledge Shinnecock, Tabutne, so Tabutne also, wado in Cherokee. And this is a song that is honoring the water, the rain that comes as a gift to water the garden. And this is how we'll be singing it as a blessing to this garden. So I'm going to start, and I know you'll just be able to join in with me. Amba, 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 last amba, 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 amba,
Andina and wado, we are wado, we are wado, we are wado, we are. And if you feel like standing up, I would love it if you'd stand up, because all these native songs, they really ask you to move with this and also to send this to the plants as we're doing this. So if you feel like it, I'm a wado, we at wado, we at wado, we at wado, we at unma, 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 unma.
The Panthers.
Way up, wado, way up, wado, way up, wado, way up. To Whitney, I'm a wado. Thank you. Hey. We're going to, the sort of grand finale here is that we thought all these new identification insights here, and we're going to, Abby is going to lead us in putting them in the garden. So it would have back here with us, like, take over. Upshits of you. May not.
Okay, White Snake Road.
Yeah, I know. You gotta learn on the castron. Silver swelling. The sun is so sad. Streams. I was fed salad. It's probably climbing.
Flat of the sun so bastard that down to its unbelievable what then hits so the other.
But this one blooms over July, and few bottles kind of harsh stripes. White, pink, spike about this tall. So have a little catch out to do. Rhingium, Yuccifolia. You live in Dan.
Greenhouse are on Main Beach every Tuesday.
We have our first 25 deer. They sell that thing. Art. And same things happening. This thing about one doing well, but I only put 5 in. A couple of them are wilting that I don't know.
Why about to go stick? Ouch. Might have been stepped on. New York ironweed is back here. This one can grow 60 $80. The rear part of this garden is designed to be more prairie style, low maintenance. Right. This one, look at it here. Stimmy Heart in BCC. And it does a resistance. Yeah, that is it. So I was it does really well with things like a panic craggle or the tall, big tall grass.
And so there's these wild cars that gave the multiple terror. Still back. Got it. That's hard to wait soon. American Whitbury. So, and
Midsummer White Flame. It's already.
it's all been a little bit about it.
Next.
Yeah. I said, you can go through just take hold on. I like that.
What I need for you. They can give up anything. I'll have Stommy Wood. Art. Oh, here. I think this was a deer let enter high. Fox called the deer pocket. Or Sleeman digitalis. This one is called over in out. It is in tutorial.
Find what painting it's very
Wide East. One sun.
easier out the meat can do
Okay. So like it's recovering. Okay, hang on. Couldn't you find? That's war. I thought he explains if we're going to go and nothing. We don't eat dogs. Then quick crowd never house I thought wasn't gonna. If we have a lot of things, well, sure. Our favorite spring plant.
French.
Great for early time of air. Absolutely hard to kill. Deer could like that. Shrubby St. Don's Wood. A Poston Corliston.
And so then she had a odd weapons. Wheat bunch. Liquid chain. They down.
This what? I think that's probably they like it. I eat the Garno. But how? So then, yeah, I think this go down. Little is out strictly Long Island native, but down this. And again, we can see things that really like the heat. This one will look 10 times better in a month.
May is the and
Fight the lumpy a day.
Euphorium we added last fall, and I was under one of the trees. Do you want to listen?
Yeah.
The downy woodland, again, is something deceptive.
We haven't think something that about was just of that. And they miss it, the downy woodland.
Here's a better one. It was had to evolve. This one's one thing I haven't used a lot, but I think incredibly charming. Come on. Lobelia Cardinals. This is a Paris. We added the lobelia to be red and the hummingbird pulled it. But this year in the June with it. So we just thought we could inside. Why not? Yes, the aster on the latest of course tonight. And they don't eat it on beach lean, but they are eating it here.
and we just summon it. Way on baby what they never would up you would with it or maybe
This is the aster online series. Dan cut a little nipped. Think it's gonna recover. Good.
Who is the butterfly?
The butterfly we in the path.
Thank you all for coming and joining us in this event, Naming Names, in the Community Pollinator Garden at East Hampton Town Hall, created by the organization Change Hampton with a lot of volunteer work for the community, and together with the town of East Hampton. We're celebrating names here today. If you don't know how to name the natural world, it's very difficult to nurture it, to love it, to save it. So that's what we were doing today. Thank you. I'm Gail Pellet with Change Hampton.
Like,